Hi, baby boomer fans. We are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade. Grab your favorite malt or Green River. Make sure you are wide awake and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us today. And here we go, Jackie, with number 218 on these little nuggets of 1950s history. It's been so rewarding to learn of the stories of those who lived in the 50s or events of the 50s. Just brings it all to life when people who actually partook of that time in history are here to tell their stories.
Welcome, viewers. Please note along the bottom you see that purple banner which says www.whilethewindmillwatch.com. That's where you'll find all sorts of information about the hosts that you have today, the vendors for our book. Note the upper corner there, that little book, the places where we will be signing books, the vendors, and all the 50s, previous 1950s Fun Chat. As Janine mentioned, this is 218. It's been 4 years of education for us and for our viewers. Now, this is all spurred by the book, While the Windmill Watched, A Slice of Rural America in the 1950s. So do check it out. So today, I'd love to introduce you our guests, from dairy farmer to civil engineer to pilot to playwright and much more in between. That describes our guest, Ed Bryan. Ed was born December 31st, 1941 in Gooding, Idaho, to Dean and Elva Bryan, the middle child with an older sister, Roxy, and a younger brother, Mike. The family moved to Colville, Washington area when he was in the first grade. He attended a country school, which he'll talk to us about. While in high school, though, Ed fell in love with Janet Hertel. After graduating from Colville High School, Jan went to St. Luke's School of Nursing in Spokane, Washington. They married in 1963. Ed earned a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Washington State University in 1965. As Ed said, we're still at it. Next year, they will have been married for 63 years. 3 daughters added joy to their family. These daughters became a nurse, a teacher, and a Lutheran pastor, wives, and mothers. Ed and Jan have 7 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. So, Ed, we welcome you to the 1950s Fun Chat. So we understand there's a little story about your family's first night in Colville. Will you describe that? Will you share it with us? Is that worth sharing?
Well, what happened was I've heard the story only from my dad and my mom. So I experienced it, but I didn't really know what was going on. I was in the first grade, and we got to Colville, and apparently the house that we were going to move into wasn't available. So we went to the Colville Hotel to spend the night. My dad went in, left us kids and my mom in the car, and it was to get a room at the hotel. And so they asked him, about family and so on. And anyway, got all done with the introductions and the signing up. And the gal at the desk says, "Well, do you want one with or without?" And my dad, thinking that, well, maybe they need a bathroom or something. I don't know. He says, "I guess one with." And she says, "Okay, fine." And so they signed all that up, and Dad says, "Okay, I'll go out and get my family." And she says, "Oh, wait. She says, "I don't think you want one with then, if you have family with you."
Oh! Evidently that
was in the 40s. Was diversified.
Oh, way to put it.
All righty. Well then, welcome to Colville. So tell us about working with your dad on the farm, and then also mention your first bicycle.
I'm sorry, say that last thing again.
I said, and then also mention your first bicycle.
Oh, well, my dad and I worked well together. We just had fun. We worked 24 hours a day, and he made it fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we, I mean, I remember just, bucking bales and working, and we would go down to the barn where we had milk machines, of course, but we didn't have and stanchions, so we had to kneel down to put the milking machines on the cows, and then and if you walk along and when someone is kneeling down and their legs are bent and you hit somebody in the thigh, if you let
Yeah.
you really stand up. And so we would do that to each other all the time.
Oh.
And, I remember one time my dad was, I mean, we would box with each other.
Oh,
One time my dad we had the, the milking parlor was one part of the barn, and then the cows were in another part of the barn. So we dumped our milk into these cream cans and in the milking parlors. So you had to take a 5-gallon bucket and go and dump it through the strainer pad and whatnot, and then come back. And anyway, so my dad had taken a 5-gallon bucket in to dump in the strainer pad, and I was standing by the door when he came back through, and I punched him in the belly.
Ooh.
oh,
and I knew he was going to get me back, so I went running. I ran up in front of the cows where they were in the stanchions, and he caught me about the time I made the corner to run down in front of the cows, and his hands touched my back and went all the way to the ground, and I had knocked my dad completely out.
oh,
Oh.
And he was laying there, his eyes all rolled back in
Oh,
his
no.
and I thought I'd killed him.
Such play.
My hands and knees trying to get him to wake up. Anyway, we just played.
Oh, that's
yeah.
no hard feelings, huh?
No hard feelings.
How old were you, Ed, when you started milking with your dad?
Just a second here. I don't know what this is doing.
Okay. How old were you when you started to milk with your dad?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh.
7,
Oh,
8,
okay. Yes.
6, 7, 8. I mean, we moved to Colville when I must have been 6, and you were, and which would have been probably in 47.
Okay.
So this is kind of about the 50s, and a funny thing is, we got the Sunday paper, and I loved to read the Sunday funnies that were always on the front of the Sunday paper.
Mm.
And for some reason, it is stuck in my head. I remember the January 1st, 1950, because some cartoon had written each of their whatever you call those things on the paper, one was a 1, one was a 9, one was a 5, and one was a 0. And it was red and yellow. I just remember that for some reason.
It really imprinted.
Yeah.
It certainly did. So then, anything more that you can say? How about that bicycle?
Oh well, let me finish talking about actually the barn.
Okay.
We had to wash the cows' udders off each before we put the milk machines on them and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a 5-gallon bucket full of warm water and a rag that we did that with, and we had a little tree frog that lived on our window above the 5-gallon bucket. We kept the water pretty hot in that, and that little tree frog became our pet. And I probably had a name for him, but I can't remember. And one day the tree frog fell off the window into the bucket of hot water. And the poor little tree frog's suction cups on his feet would no longer let him stick to the window.
Oh.
So he had to sit on the ledge, and we nursed him until he finally died.
Oh, how sweet.
And we had an old ma cat that had kittens every year, and she was an old gray cat. We called her the old ma cat. And pouring the milk into the milk cans, you use this big funnel thing that had strainer pads in the bottom of it, and so you dump the milk in, and then the strainer pads would get dirty, and you'd have to throw the strainer pads out, and we just threw them out behind the barn. And that old ma cat would come and eat those strainer pads. And my dad says, "Those strainer pads are going to kill that cat one day. They're just going to kill that cat." Yeah. So one day I'm up I loved to shoot squirrels, gophers and stuff. We had a lot of gophers, and I had a little 22, and at 14 I would drive to the store and get bullets so I could shoot squirrels. Anyway, one day I was sitting up on the hillside shooting squirrels, and I saw this bobcat run across the field. Well, it was quite a ways away. I was a pretty good shot back then. I can get a bobcat. So I shot, and this cat goes, whoo, flies over and dies right there on the spot.
Wow.
And I ran over there and got it, and I had shot the old maw cat.
Oh dear.
And I didn't know that, and I never, ever told my dad that I'd shot the old maw cat. He just remember she died from eating strainer pads.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And you never ever did tell him, huh?
I never told him. He never knew.
Just as well.
Yeah, we won't tell him.
My
No.
bicycle. We were
in heaven.
friends with a family in southern Idaho where we moved from, and they had a daughter named Dixie who was a little bit older than me, but she had a bicycle, and we went down to southern Idaho to visit these people one day, probably for several days. And anyway, I wanted to learn to ride the bicycle. So I worked and I learned to ride her bicycle during that time we were down there. And I knew when we got home, I knew that there was an old bicycle in the dump that we had on our place. It was just on a little cliff area, and they just threw stuff down in there, and there was no bicycle down there. So I went back into that dump, and I found that old bicycle, and I brought it down, and I oiled it all up and everything. And I didn't have any tires. It just had wheels. And so I greased it all up, and I got it going, and I rode that wheelless bicycle. It was hard to ride. I rode it around and around. I can still see the tracks down in front of the barn where I would ride that bicycle round and around and around and around.
Wow.
And finally, I saved up $17, and my mom and dad threw in another $17, and I was able to get a bike that had wheels. Brand spanking new Schwinn green bike.
Mm-hmm. So was it quite a bit easier to bicycle than to ride that bike versus the other one?
Oh yes, it was amazing. It was kind of like the day that I got my first tennis shoes. I mean, I just wore boots all the time. I had one pair of shoes, and that was it. I wore them everywhere. And I got tennis shoes, and I thought, wow, I can run so fast because my feet are so light. I can just run and run and run. And my sister, of course, being the snot she was, oh, you're just showing off. My sister, we had a 2-story house with my sister and Gramps. My grandfather lived with us forever. I can't remember him not living with us. My mom's dad. And my sister had you go up the steps. My sister's room was to the right, and my room was to the left. And then Gramps had to go through my room to get to his room, which was back in the corner. Anyway, I was not allowed to go into my sister's room, but she could come into my room. Was okay.
She laid down the law, huh?
Yeah, and we didn't have any heat up there. We had a little about 12-inch radiator that came from downstairs on the landing at the top of the steps. And so if you closed your door upstairs, it was just plain cold. I mean, I would have a beautiful frost on the windows. And I had my sister, on her side of the house, there wasn't a roof. So there was a fire, she would have to jump 2 stories. However, the porch came out on my side, and I could get out on the roof. I had it all figured out. On the roof, and I could jump off of that.
Did you ever go out onto that roof just to hang out?
Well, not just to hang out, but I would get on it. Yeah,
Just because you could.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So tell us about attending country school and your teacher and the influence that she has had upon your life.
Well, let's see. The country school was a one-room school with 6 grades. The first year that I was there, I was in, like you said, I was in the 1st grade. But we probably moved in November. And we had Mrs. Naff. And Mrs. Naff was hard. She was. I remember her not being an easy person to be around. But then I was in 6th grade, so who knows? or first grade, I mean. But then the next year we got Mrs. Saffel. We had a wood furnace, a basement in that school, and a wood furnace that we had to go stoke all the time. Again, there was no heat in the school itself. It just a great big, probably, I remember it being great big. It was probably 3 foot square grate in the floor that brought heat up from the basement into the school. So it was warm enough in there, but there was no, central heating or anything like that. And there was no plumbing. We didn't have inside plumbing. We had a girls' outhouse and a boys' outhouse that we had to walk. If you needed to go to the bathroom, you went out to the outhouse, and there was no bells. We had a big bell. It was probably 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 inches around with a handle on it. And after recess or anything, she'd just come out and ring the bell, and we'd all come running in from outside doing whatever we did. We had monkey bars. I think a slide of which I fell off the monkey bars one day and broke my arm.
Oh.
That was the first one of 3.
Did you ever have swings and then you would pump high in the air and then bail out?
Oh yes, yeah. But that wasn't how I broke my arm. I broke my arm just falling off of monkey bars.
Oh.
3 times?
The second time I broke my arm was riding the horse. We had an old sway-back horse that my dad got somewhere, but he would not let us ride it with a saddle because when he was a young lad, he fell off a horse with the saddle and caught his foot in the stirrup, and it was drugged by the horse.
Yep.
And he didn't want any of us to have that happen. So we pretty much rode that horse with a hackamore and bareback. And my legs weren't long enough. It was a big horse. My legs weren't long enough to go across the back. And I remember we had to ride that horse down about probably a mile down to the main road to get the mail. And so I would get on that horse. I'd have to get on the fence to jump on that horse first and catch the horse. That was another big problem.
When you
I rode it down and it would get to trotting, and I couldn't stay on it if it trotted. And I was riding up by our neighbor's house, and the horse decided it wanted to trot, and I fell off and broke my dang arm.
Oh.
And the neighbor came running down, and he set me back on the horse and sent me home. And I remember riding in, and my lovely sister says, "What's the matter with you? You hanging your arm down like that?" I said, "I think I broke my arm." "Oh, you didn't break your arm."
She's a toughie.
Anyway, my mom finally did take me to the doctor after a day, I think, and sure enough, I had a cast on my arm.
Yes.
So there.
Another story about my sister. We had a gas barrel to keep the gas in the tractors. When we lived in Idaho, we didn't have a tractor. We had Nick and Bull, a couple of horses. And another little sideline on Gooding. My sister and I wanted to. My brother was like 6 years younger, so he wasn't around much for any of these things. But my sister and I wanted to go play in the canal, and my mom was afraid we'd drown in the canal, so she tied us to the clothesline. Well, so she tied us to the clothesline, but Roxy, being the gal that she was, she figured out how to get us loose, and we ran out.
The gal that she
Went
was.
to the canal anyway. And then, of course, we got spanked and had to stay home for a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, she didn't get any better when we moved to Colville because she tied me to the gas barrel one day and stood back about 10 feet and filled me full of BBs with my BB gun.
Oh, my goodness.
We get along really good now.
He was. Do the BBs actually puncture you?
No, I had clothes on. She didn't shoot me above the waist. She just shot me in the legs.
Yeah. How kind of her. Very thoughtful.
That's funny. I mean, it wasn't at the time, I'm sure, but it's funny now.
So, anything more about your? Go ahead, Ed.
We didn't have sleds. We had a scoop shovel, and there was a little hill going down from our house down to the barn, And so we would ride that scoop shovel down and sled on that scoop shovel down to the barn, crash into the barn, and then walk back up and crash back.
Huh.
Well,
So,
I think in those days, especially, you had fun with the items that you had, and you made it work. You're a creative
Oh
thinker.
yeah, we also had we took old car hoods
oh yes.
and turned them upside down, tied them to the back of the car, and pulled them behind cars and slid all over the place with them.
Yes.
My dad made us a bobsled. You could steer it. It wasn't a toboggan. It was more like a bobsled, and it would hold like 8 kids. And we lived on at the bottom of a pretty good sized hill. So he built this bobsled. It was probably 18 inches wide. Had ropes along the side of it to hang on to, and the first kid would sit in the front and reach under his knees would be up, and he could reach under the knees, and there was a bar there that you could turn back and forth to turn the front runners.
Huh.
And then the other kid would sit and he would put his legs under your arms and then wrap them around your waist, and the next kid behind that. And so you get like 8 kids on this thing, and you could go like a bat out of Hades down this hill. And my dad would pull us up the hill with his tractor, go back down the hill, the bottom of the hill with his tractor, and wait and stop the cars. It wasn't a paved road, and it wasn't plowed, and it was just great for sledding. Anyway, we had come down the hill, and there was a big curve that came down, and then you would start gaining speed, and there was a long stretch, a straight stretch, but there was a really sharp curve right at the bottom of that straight stretch, and if you got going too fast, you couldn't make that curve. So if you were good, you could make that toboggan spin around and around and around down this straight stretch until you got to the curve, so you could make the curve. And then when you got around that curve, there was another little curve and a steep hill down to the bottom where we lived. And it was just, I mean, we wore that thing out.
Did you ever have to shine up the bottom of it
it shined on your own. Okay. I mean, every once in a while I'd hit gravel, and that would spill everybody over.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, goodness. So tell us more about this teacher.
Oh, Mrs. Saffel?
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Saffel was a nice lady. She taught us. There were 2 kids in my class, James and me, I can remember one year going, and she would get workbooks. These workbooks where you would go through workbooks, and we were all excited to do these workbooks, and James and I decided that we needed to have a lot of workbooks, and we got all these workbooks so we could do our classes with the workbooks. And of course, we overestimated our ability. But the classroom we sat, and it was always a big deal when you got to move from the little desk up to a bigger desk, and up to a bigger desk. I remember we must have had a Christmas party or something where the parents came, because we made a curtain in front of the. Maybe this is my first acting thing. We made a curtain in front of the classroom that was made out of quilts, and I can remember those quilts. And you'd pull the quilt in and open it up, and then we had this little show that we did. And the quilt was made out of some kind of velvet or something. It was so soft. And I can remember holding it and rubbing it on my cheek. It was so soft. I just loved it. And my mom and dad said, well, you didn't know any lines, but you could rub that seat. And she was a great teacher. I mean, I did okay. We didn't have sports. I remember we made a big, huge kite one time and tried to get it to fly. Music-wise, Mrs. Saffel's. No, it wasn't Mrs. Saffel's. It was one of the students. Grandmother, we called her Granny. Lived. The school was on this hill, and then you went down a hill and back up the other side, and Granny lived over on that hill. So if we wanted music, we'd go over to Granny's house. So we'd all traipse down the hill, up over the hill, back to Granny's house, and go into Granny's house. And if I ever smell Lipton soup, that's Granny's house. I comes right back. Yeah. And her daughter knew how to to play, of which you know her daughter, Jackie. It's well, no, I can't say it. The people that own the cemetery. What can I say? Her name?
Danicus.
No, not Danicus. It was before Danicus.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that later.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Remember.
Anyway, she could play the piano, so we would go over and sing and do whatever music we had, and then walk back. But there was no sports. We had track meets with other small schools in the area, where we would do penmanship and broad jump and high jump and other odds and ends, just running around sack races and that kind of stuff. And they were always fun.
Mhm.
But a lot of those schools were much bigger than ours. I mean, they had 2 rooms.
Oh.
And you like 14, 15, 20 kids.
Mhm.
And so we were by far the smallest one.
And
My claim to fame is half of my graduating class from the 6th grade was murdered. The other kid, he was selling drugs down on the Rio Grande and didn't make it through that.
My goodness.
Oh, that's too
So you
bad.
have, when you have class reunions, they're kind of
Yeah, I'm it.
me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
Well, but an interesting comma or exclamation point in your story.
Yeah.
You have that.
Yeah. So can you remember anything from the 1950s, whether it be school or things that happened in the United States that's something that may have affected you? It's something you remember that was really made a mark on you.
In the 1950s, let's see, I don't know. I don't remember what year Eisenhower and Stevenson were running for president.
That was the 50s.
That was in the 50s.
I think it was 1956
Oh, must have.
or 52.
That could have been 52. Probably would guess it was 52.
Okay.
Because Mrs. Saffel was apparently a Republican, and apparently my mom and dad were not. They wanted Stevenson to win, and Mrs. Saffel wanted the Eisenhower to win.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we had a mock election in our school,
Mhm.
and I campaigned big time for Stevenson,
It was a,
and campaign, and sure enough, Stevenson won our mock election. Well, I tipped off our teacher.
oh
She
dear.
threw the election out. She says, we're going to have another election because this one was wrong.
Oh my goodness.
And she threw it out, and she campaigned for Eisenhower, and lo and behold, Eisenhower won the next election. So there you go.
Oh yeah.
And that's probably not right.
A little bias there, maybe.
Yeah. But thanks to Eisenhower, we do have the interstate.
That's
highway
true.
system.
That's true.
Mhm.
Anyway, Sylvan, how did a low time in your life develop into the best gig ever for you?
Well, that's beyond the 50s, but
Yes, but it's your story.
because I graduated from high school in 1960. I have to tell you a little bit about junior high. It was
Sure.
in the 50s. I didn't know sports. I mean, I just didn't know them. We had a little bit of softball and 4-H. My dad made a backstop in one little spot that was flat and sandy. and we played softball in that, and other 4-H teams around the area would come and we'd have softball games together. But that was about the only organized sport that I ever played. But I loved to watch football. But not watch it, but well, I guess watch it, because the only time I really watched it was we went to the fairgrounds. They played football down at the fairgrounds at that time.
Hmm.
And I can remember peeking through a fence and seeing all these uniforms green. They were green. And playing football with shoulder pads on and all this stuff. And my dad would talk about how somebody would play football and they could bend their leg. They were so strong they could bend their leg and pop their Levi's because of the muscles they had in their legs. I don't know if that was true or not, but
That impressed you, though, huh?
yeah, it impressed me. So I wanted to play football. So being a dairy farm, you have to be home, milk those dang cows all the time in the morning and at night. And so I wasn't allowed to play any sports until finally in the 9th grade, my dad said, okay, fine, you can play football, but that's all. And so I played football, and we had leather helmets I remember just like yesterday. I think I was at a having lunch after church, and this team, the Green Bay Packers have helmets, brown helmets that have stitches on them, like those old leather.
I saw that.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, those are just like the ones I had, only probably a little harder.
Yeah, and they're safer.
And safer. Oh yeah. Anyway, so I was able to play football. I couldn't drive at the time because I wasn't old enough to drive, and there was no way to get home. So I would the Greyhound bus went from Colville to Spokane, and so I would get a bus ticket and I'd ride the Greyhound bus, and they just dumped me out on the road by our house, and then I'd walk home. Sometimes I would take my bicycle and leave it hid in the brush down there so I could ride it home. But speaking of bicycles, back to the 50s, there was a family lived above us, the Peterson family, that we used to hay together with. We didn't have a baler, so it was all loose hay, and we had big buck rakes that would come and make these big piles of hay, and it took a lot of people to do all of that. So the Peterson family, there were brothers up there, Vernon and Clarence Peterson, and their family would get together with us, and we would all hay together. I mean, it was like a threshing crew almost, because we'd do our haying, and then they'd do their haying and whatnot. Anyway, they had between those two Peterson families, they had, I think, 6 kids, all younger than me, but they all went down to the 12-mile school. And those kids didn't have a bicycle, but I did. So I could get 4 kids on my bicycle and me. Yeah. And I would ride them as far as I could up the hill to our house. I would wear out, and I'd turn around, ride back, and get the other 2 or 3 kids and ride them a little bit further. Then I'd take the rest of the other kids and I'd ride them up the hill till I finally got them up to our place, and then their dad would come pick them up at our house. They probably lived a mile or more up the road.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I bet you had great thighs from all that pumping.
It wasn't a thing then, but I probably did. I was probably in very, very good shape. I mean,
yes.
Yeah. And there's an example of your kindness. I said, there's an example of the kindness that I know of you.
Oh, well.
Yep, there it was.
I mean, when you get up and milk the cows, buck bales all day long, 50, 60 pound bales all day long, walking behind the wagon, throw them on and unload them. I had asthma so bad I had to wear a mask most of the time when I was doing the haying. My dad was kind enough that I was able to work on the wagon. I didn't have to get in the barn.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, so what was your question? You asked me about
the low part in your life that yielded the best gain.
I got into the construction business after I graduated from college. We went to I became assistant city engineer in Springfield, Oregon, where they had annexed a whole great big area, and they were putting new sewer system and streets and whatnot, all the infrastructure for this new thing. And the people, excuse me, the people that were annexed were not happy to have us there. And I remember that our survey crew would go out and try to survey where these roads and these pipes and stuff would be. And they would be chased away with people with guns and all kinds of things because they didn't want them there. And yet sewerage from their septic tanks was floating in their yards. I mean, it was just stupid. But anyway, I worked there. I got fired from that job because we had a Lou Eisen was his name. He said, not like Eisenhower, but Eisen. His name was Lou Eisen, and he retired, and then they got another city engineer who was an old Navy captain who smoked cigars, and he would smoke them down till there was about an inch left, and an inch of cigar and an inch of ash, and I would have all these plans that I'd been working on drawn out, and he'd come drop his ashes on my plans. And then he would fire up that old cigar, and it stunk so bad I could hardly stand it. And anyway, I quit working basically before I quit. I got a job. I got a job with Bechtel Corporation, a big construction company out of San Francisco, and I couldn't stay with that job. Anyway, they called me in one day and says, you know, I don't think we're going to need you anymore. I got fired, but I already had another job, so
Yes, good for you. Good for you.
Just as well for your health.
yeah. Anyway, so then I went to work for Bechtel, built power plants here, there, and yonder, and one in Billings, Montana, which is another little story. We were in Billings, I don't know, probably 6-7 years ago, and some friends of ours that we met and still are friends with in Billings, we went to visit them, and I said, what's going on with the power plant? I said, it looks like it's closed down. Well, he says, they're trying to decide whether to put it on the historical register or tear it down. I was like, they can't put a power plant on the historical register. I built the dang thing. But they didn't. They tore it down instead.
Oh.
So, and then we moved to Missouri, to a little town about 45 miles west of Missouri, where our youngest daughter, Stacy, was born. Shelley was born in Oregon. Susan was born in Pullman. And Stacy was born in St. Louis. And we had to get out of there because she was becoming a show-me girl.
Because why?
So,
She was becoming, well, you know, Missouri is the show-me state.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
And she was becoming a show-me girl.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, then we moved up
okay.
to Michigan. And a friend of mine and I built houses up there. And my mom and dad wanted to build a house. So I said, I'll come back out to Washington and build you a house. So I did. And then we never came back. We moved back to Colville in 72. And I built their house. And then I built another couple of houses. And I really wanted to get into commercial building. So I did. I built the building right across the street from the courthouse. It used to be Fred Stewart's building and Columbia Fed Savings and Loan. I think the county has offices in there now, Stevens County. Anyway, I built all those buildings, and years later I got a job to build. Well, I built a medical center also up in Colville, and I got a job to build the Ponderay County Maintenance Building over in Newport. In the meantime, I've learned to fly, and I'm just flying everywhere. We've flown all over the United States. Our family has. And I love to fly. And Fred, as another aside, Fred was my partner in flying. I belonged to the club. We had 17 members in the club, but only about 5 or 6 of us flew airplanes. And we had 4 airplanes. We had a 6-place airplane, 2 4-place airplanes, and a little aerobatic airplane, a little Citabria. And I love to fly that Citabria. I love to fly it upside down, right side up, every which way. And I got pretty good at it. I never took any lessons, as stupid as that may sound. I just kind of read a book and I said, well, I'll probably do that. So I did.
Wow.
And anyway, I got this job in Newport. And I could fly my little Citabria airplane over to Newport in about 20 minutes, but it took 2 hours to drive over there. So I talked to the county commissioners. And I said there was a road right in front of the job site that went to the dump. So the gravel road that had a big pile of gravel alongside of it. And I said, can I land my plane on this road? And they said, sure, go ahead. So I would fly over and land on the road and work on that job. One day it was a beautiful blue sky day, and I just had to go up and ring my little airplane out. So I took off, flew up, running out, did loops, rolls, whatever else you do when you're ringing an airplane out. Came back, landed on the road, and my one of my brakes, it was my right brake, didn't work. And when you're flying a tailwheel airplane, you steer it with the brakes when you land.
Okay.
And I went into the ditch. It didn't hurt anything because everything was shut off. And so anyway, I had that little issue. I had a few weeks prior to that, my brother wanted to fly. He worked for me, and he wanted to fly home with me. So I said, fine. So we were flying home, and we're droning along. And I said, you ever fly upside down? He said, no. I said, well, do you want to? He says, sure. I said, okay. I said, when I turn this airplane upside down, everything on the floor is going to fall on the ceiling. So get a hold of yours, get everything stowed away so it doesn't rattle around back there. So he says, okay, I'm ready. So I turn the airplane upside down, rang, 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 rang. His thermos bottle is rattling around back there, and it gets caught between the seat and and his thermos bottle gets caught between the seat and the stick that you're driving the airplane with.
Oh.
I'm getting our seatbelts upside down. And I finally get that all straightened around. But anyway, his thermos bottle knocked a little hole about an inch around, and there was a bar that went over the top of my head, and a little hole in the plexiglass window right behind me,
Oh dear.
about an inch around. Just didn't really hurt anything. It just was the hole there. So anyway, back to the kid in the wanting to fly home with me after I'd run the airplane in the ditch and everything else. He still wanted to do it.
He was brave.
Yeah.
Very brave.
Anyway, so I said, okay, fine. So he got in and we took off and we're flying along, and he is a white knuckled flyer. He is so scared he can hardly stand it. And I said, well, do you know how an airplane works? No. I said, well, if I pull the stick back, the airplane goes up. So I pulled it back a little bit. He is just scared. I mean, I can't see him. He's behind me, but I can hear him. And so I said, oh man, this kid is just scared. I just got to fly straight and level and not do anything. So I was trying my best. And then I thought, well, I think he's settled down a little bit. I said, now, if I move the stick over to the right, it'll make the airplane turn. It'll tip a little bit, but it'll be okay. So I turned. He is scared. And I thought, oh man, this kid is just so scared. I don't want to scare him. So I'm droning along, and all of a sudden a little gust of wind comes, and that little hole that my brother knocked in the window gets caught in that, and that whole back window pops out. The whole thing.
Oh.
And the wind is blowing this kid's hair back.
Did he ever want to fly again?
Pardon me?
Did he ever want to fly again?
You know, I haven't talked to that kid since. I want to hear his story of how that affected him.
My goodness sakes.
So you know what, Janine and Ed, we're ending at our time, and Ed, you have so many more things to tell us. I would like to suggest that we end this one and we do another one another time.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, because
I'm sorry, I get off track.
No, that's okay. These are very interesting.
Yes.
Hang tight. Okay, but for now, folks, thanks for joining us, and tell your friends, even your relatives, about our 1950s fun chat. And this is Ed number 1. We'll return with another chat with Ed. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.